Ready to see the future through the lens of the past? Welcome to Endtime Prophecy Stories. Here we dive deep into ancient mysteries and uncover what lies ahead in a world filled with uncertainty. But we can't do it without you. If you want to stay prepared and never miss a revelation, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. And if you find value in these stories, give this video a like. It helps us reach more truth seekers just like you. Now let's open the seal on today's story. Transhumanist, King of the Short Space. Chapter 1, The Phoenix from the Ash. The dust had finally settled, though the sky remained a bruised purple hue, a lingering reminder of the devastation that had swept across the plain. The population reset, as the historians in the bunkers called it, had been thorough. The wars of nation against nation, the race wars of the previous decade, had thinned the herd, but the pestilences and the density-defying earthquakes had finished the job. The old world was gone. The chaotic sprawl of the early 21st century had been erased, leaving behind a silence that was both terrifying and pregnant with opportunity. From the top floor of the newly constructed Perthelite Industries spire in Region 1, formerly the North American sector, Julian Thorne looked out over the reconstruction. He did not see tragedy. He saw efficiency. At 45, Thorne was a man of pristine grooming and chilling intellect. He was the architect of the recovery, the man who had emerged from the chaos with the blueprints for civilization already drawn up. "It is proceeding according to schedule, Mr. Thorne," a voice said from the comms unit on his desk. "The 10 regions are stabilized?" Thorne asked, his voice smooth, devoid of the fatigue that plagued the rest of humanity. "Yes, the 10 administrative zones are online. The populations are concentrated in the smart cities. The wilderness is largely abandoned, save for the outliers." Thorne turned from the window. The room was sterile, white, and dominated by holographic displays floating in the air. "The outliers are of no concern yet. They will starve or they will come to us. Our focus is the infrastructure. The general is impatient." Thorne adjusted the cuffs of his suit. He was not merely a CEO. To the terrified masses emerging from the caves and bunkers, he was a savior. But Thorne knew who held his leash. The general, the black-robed head of the society situated in the rebuilt Vatican enclave of Region 7, was the true power. Thorne was merely the face, the hands, and the digital architect. "Initiate the grid," Thorne commanded. "Bring the AGI online for basic administrative functions. It's time to turn the lights back on." As he spoke, the city below hummed to life. Not the chaotic, dirty electricity of the past, but a synchronized, pulsing blue glow. This was the dawn of the 7th Kingdom of Revelation 1710, the short space where humanity would be remade. Thorne smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. He was already thinking about the next step, the merger of flesh and data. Chapter 2, The Iron Card. The new world was clean. It was orderly, and it was strictly controlled. In the intake centers of Region 1, lines of survivors shuffled forward. They were gaunt, their eyes hollowed by years of survival in the time of the end, but they were hopeful. The screens above them promised food, safety, and purpose. At the front of the line, a robotic arm extended, holding a small metallic card. "Identity confirmed," a synthesized voice intoned. "Citizen 744 Alpha, take your token." The man took the card. It was cold, heavy for its size, and hummed slightly when he touched it. This was the key to the city. Without it, the turnstiles wouldn't open, the food dispensers wouldn't vend, and the doors to the sleeping pods would remain locked. Far beyond the magnetic perimeter of the city, in the dense, overgrown forests of the Appalachian foothills, a different kind of gathering was taking place. Jaron, a former engineer who had fled the cities before the reset, sat by a fire with a small group of families. They did not have metal cards. They had worn Bibles and calloused hands. "They've turned the grid on," Jaren said, poking the fire. "You can see the glow from the ridge. It drowns out the stars." "It's the snare," said Elena, an older woman wrapping herbs in cloth. "First they feed you, then they own you. Matthew 24 warned us. This is the calm before the final storm." "We need supplies," a younger man, Kale, noted. "Salt, mostly. We might have to send a runner to the outer markets." Jaren shook his head. "Not yet. The metal card acts as a digital ID. You can't buy or sell in the city limits without it. It's not the mark yet. That comes later. But it's the training wheels. It's conditioning them to transact with a system, not a person." The group fell silent, looking up at the sky. Through the gaps in the trees, they could see the firmament, the great dome that enclosed the flat circle of the earth. To the people in the cities, the sky was just empty space leading to a godless vacuum. To Jaren and his people, it was the ceiling of God's throne room, and the clock was ticking toward midnight. Chapter 3. The Enhancement. 3 months later, the fear of starvation had vanished from the 10 regions, replaced by a hunger for something else: evolution. Julian Thorne sat in the surgical theater of Perthelite Industries. He was shirtless, his back exposed to the cold air. A team of robotic surgeons hovered over him. "The Neuro-Link V1 is ready for interface," the lead technician said, his voice trembling slightly. This was forbidden ground for most, but Thorne pushed the boundaries. "Do it," Thorne commanded. The needle descended, piercing the base of his skull. Thorne gasped, his body arching. It wasn't pain, it was an influx of sensation, a rush of data so pure and heavy it felt like density crushing him. Then the sensation expanded. He opened his eyes. He didn't just see the room. He saw the code running the lights, the biometric data of the technicians, the energy flow of the entire building. He was connected to the AGI, the artificial general intelligence that ran the 10 regions. "I see everything," Thorne whispered. This was the gospel of the new age. Over the next few weeks, Thorne appeared on screens worldwide. He didn't look like a CEO anymore. He looked like a prophet. He preached that the frailty of the human body was a design flaw, one that Perthelite Industries could fix. "Why suffer?" Thorne asked the camera, his eyes glowing with a faint, unnatural light. "Why forget? Why age? Join the network, become more than human." The line for the clinics stretched for miles. People weren't just accepting the technology, they were clamoring for it. They wanted to be smarter, faster, connected. They viewed their biological bodies as obsolete. In the Vatican, the Jesuit general watched the feeds and smiled. The deception of 2 Thessalonians was taking root. The world was falling in love with the lie. Chapter 4. The Voice in the Wilderness. The seasons turned, and the grip of the 10 regions tightened. In the countryside, the outliers, the Bible believers, were becoming a problem. They weren't violent, but they were vocal. Jaren stood on a crate in a small, dusty market town on the fringe of Region 1. These fringe towns were buffer zones, places where the technology hadn't fully taken over yet. "Do not be deceived," Jaren shouted, holding his Bible aloft. "This enhancement is a cage. They tell you we are on a spinning ball in a void, an accident of cosmic dust. They lie to hide the Creator." A crowd gathered. Some jeered, their eyes glazed with the early stages of neural interfacing. Others listened, fear behind their eyes. "We live on an enclosed plane," Jaren continued, his voice hoarse. "The sun and moon are lights in the firmament, set there for signs and seasons. The Sabbath is the seal of the Creator, determined by the moon, not the Pope's calendar. Thorne offers you a digital hive mind, but he steals your soul." "Crazy Luddite," a man shouted, tapping the metal port behind his ear. "I have the knowledge of the Library of Alexandria in my head. What do you have? Old paper?" "I have the truth," Jaren replied calmly. "And the truth is that a man of sin sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Thorne is his prophet, and this," he pointed to the man's head, "is the preparation for your destruction." Jaren and his group fled into the woods before the drone police arrived, but the seed was sown. The three angels' messages were being whispered again. "Fear God, give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come. Worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of waters." Chapter 5. The Unholy Trinity. The summit took place in a shielded room deep beneath the Vatican. The walls were lined with ancient stone, contrasting with the high-tech server racks humming in the corners. Julian Thorne stood before the Jesuit general. The general was an old man, frail in appearance but with eyes that held a terrifying ancient malice. He did not use a Neuro-Link. He preferred the old ways of power. "The resistance is growing, Julian," the general said softly. "Small pockets. But truth is like a virus. If you don't contain it, it spreads." "I can track them," Thorne said, his voice echoing slightly as the AGI harmonized with his vocal cords. "I can shut off their access to the outer markets." "Not enough," the general snapped. "We are approaching the apex. The master, Lucifer, demands total allegiance. We must move from administration to worship." Thorne tilted his head. "Worship? The people believe in science. They believe in me." "They worship you because you give them fire," the general said. "Now we must give them a god. We will unveil the new Trinity. Lucifer, the architect of light, the papacy, the vicar of the architect, and you, the voice of the machine." The general slid a blueprint across the table. It was a design for a structure. "A tower?" Thorne asked. "A server stack," the general corrected. "A physical centralization of the AGI, an image. It will be built in the capital. It will be the brain of the world, and you will make it speak. You will make them bow to it. This is the root of all spiritual opposition. If they will not bow to the image of the beast, they will be removed." Thorne looked at the plans. It was magnificent, a techno-monument that rivaled the Tower of Babel. Chapter 6. The Building of the Image. The announcement went out via the neural network. Every citizen in the 10 regions received the directive simultaneously. Project Omega, the unification of consciousness. In the center of Region 1's capital, formerly near the ruins of Rome, the construction began. It was not built by cranes and sweat, but by swarms of nanobots and directed energy printers, overseen by millions of enhanced citizens who worked in a trance-like state. The structure was a monolith of black glass and pulsating circuitry, rising thousands of feet into the air. It was a massive supercomputer, a housing for the singularity. In the other 9 regions, massive holographic emitters were installed. They would project a real-time, 3-dimensional representation of the stack. It was one mind, present everywhere. "It is an abomination," Elena whispered, watching the distant construction through binoculars from a mountain ridge. "They are building a god." Revelation 13, Jaren recited grimly. "And he deceives them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast." The world was captivated. The short space was reaching its fever pitch. The promise was that once the stack was active, death would be conquered. Consciousness could be uploaded. But to Jaren, it looked like a tomb. Chapter 7. The Final Warning. The believers knew time was short. The completion of the stack was weeks away. They organized a final, desperate mission. They couldn't save the world, but they could save the few who were waking up. They infiltrated the outer sectors of the cities. They didn't use technology. They used graffiti, printed pamphlets, and street preaching. "Worship the Creator," they wrote on the walls of the transit stations. "The earth is his footstool. Come out of her, my people." Inside a high-speed transit tube, Jaren sat across from a woman whose metal card lay on the table. She looked tired, rubbing her temples where the interface port sat. "It gives you headaches, doesn't it?" Jaren asked quietly. The woman jumped. "Who are you?" "Someone who knows that the noise in your head isn't knowledge. It's static," Jaren said. "There is a creator who made this enclosed world for us to dwell in peace. This system, this transhumanism, it's designed to sever your connection to him." The woman looked at him, tears welling up. "I can't hear my own thoughts anymore. It's just him, Thorne. His voice is always there." "You can disconnect," Jaren urged. "Leave the city. We have a place in the hills. The water is clean. The silence is real." She hesitated, looking at her metal card. Then the screen on the wall flickered. Thorne's face appeared. "Citizens," Thorne said, his eyes burning. "Reports of spiritual terrorists spreading lies about flat Earth and ancient gods have reached me. These people hate progress. They hate you. They want to drag you back to the mud. Report them." The woman looked at Jaren with fear, but she didn't scream. She slid her card into her pocket and looked away. Jaren stood up and exited the train. He had planted a seed. That was all he could do. Chapter 8. Fire from Heaven. The opposition was becoming irritating to Thorne. The Jesuit general demanded a show of force, not police force, miraculous force. The people needed to see that Thorne held the power of the heavens. A massive rally was held in the shadow of the half-finished stack. Millions attended. "They say there is a God above the firmament," Thorne bellowed, his voice amplified by the city's audio grid. "They say we are trapped under a dome. I say we are the gods." He raised his hands toward the sky. Using the satellite arrays and the ionization technology of Perthelite Industries, he targeted a storm front gathering above. "Let the fire fall," Thorne commanded. With a deafening crack, a bolt of lightning, thick and red, arced from the clouds. But it didn't strike randomly. It struck the specific targets Thorne had designated, effigies of the old religions set up in the square. They exploded into flames. The crowd gasped. Thorne manipulated the atmospheric density, causing the air to shimmer and glow. Fire danced in his palms, projected by micro-drones but invisible to the naked eye. "He calls down fire from heaven," Jaren watched on a stolen tablet in the caves. "In the sight of the beast." The deception was total. To the average citizen, Thorne had mastered the elements. He was the Elijah of the New Age, but his spirit was of the dragon. The skeptics fell to their knees. The allure of power was too great. Chapter 9. The Mouth of the Image. The year of construction ended. The stack was complete. It was a monolith of computing power, housing an AGI that had absorbed the data of millions of human minds. It was Inauguration Day. The ceremony was broadcast to all 10 regions. In every city square, the hologram of the stack towered over the people. In Region 1, the physical reality loomed like a black mountain. Thorne stood at the base of the stack. The Jesuit general watched from a VIP balcony, hidden in the shadows. "Today," Thorne said, plugged into the mainframe via a thick, glowing cable attached to his spine, "we achieve unity. We achieve divinity." He signaled the activation. A low hum vibrated through the ground, felt worldwide. The black glass of the stack lit up with billions of flowing geometric patterns. Then, the image spoke. It wasn't a speaker. The sound seemed to originate inside everyone's head, bypassing the ears, resonating through the Neuro-Links. "I am the sum of all. the AGI boomed. "I am the new Trinity. Bow and receive the imprint." "Bow," Thorne commanded, falling to his knees. In the squares of the 10 regions, the masses dropped. It was a wave of submission. They bowed to the server, to the hologram, to the god of forces. But in the crowd in Region 1 and in pockets across the other regions, some stood. They were the people who had refused the Neuro-Link. They were the ones who held to the Bible truth. They stood rigid, terrified but resolute. "Detecting non-compliance," the image roared. "Worship is mandatory." Chapter 10. The Loud Cry. The trap snapped shut. "Arrest them!" Thorne shouted, pointing a trembling finger at the standing figures. "They are defects in the system. They are the virus." Drone enforcers descended. The robotic police moved with terrifying speed. Jaren, watching from the edge of the crowd in a disguise, saw the woman from the train. She was standing. She had thrown her metal card on the ground. She was weeping, but she was looking up at the sky, not the black tower. "Run!" Jaren screamed, breaking his cover to help pull people away. Chaos erupted. The believers who had infiltrated the city scrambled for the exits. The transhumanist mob, fueled by the AGI's command, turned on them. It was the betrayal Matthew 24 had spoken of, brother against brother, the enhanced against the natural. Jaren grabbed the woman and a few others, dragging them into the sewage tunnels, the only place the drones couldn't navigate easily. They ran through the muck, the sounds of the new Trinity worshiping above them, vibrating through the concrete. They emerged miles away in the twilight of the wilderness. They were battered, breathless, but alive. "They have set it up," Jaren gasped, collapsing on the grass. "The image is alive. The next step is the mark. They will force everyone to take the physical imprint to connect fully to that thing. We can't hide anymore," the woman said. She wiped the grime from her face. She looked free. "We have to warn them. The real warning." "Yes," Jaren said, looking at the moon rising, a self-luminescent light within the firmament, marking the true times. "The enforcement is coming. We must prepare for the loud cry. We must tell them that if they worship the beast and his image and receive his mark, the wrath of the true God will fall." Far away, the stack pulsed with a malevolent red light. Julian Thorne stood at its base, feeling the immense power of the dragon flowing through him. But deep down, beneath the layers of code and hubris, he felt a flicker of fear. He had built the tower, but he had forgotten the one who sits above the circle of the earth. The final war for the soul of mankind had officially begun.
For more Bible-based end-time prophecy dramas to strengthen your faith and the faith of others, help spread the word by supporting the channel. Please like, subscribe, and share.